An impossible shot in World War II by a forgotten hero saved hundreds of lives and secretly changed how snipers fight forever. Our story begins not on a battlefield, but in Murphy's Pool Hall in Charlestown, Massachusetts. There, young Jimmy Callagher had a gift. While other kids played stickball, Jimmy saw trajectories nobody else could. He mastered ricochets, sinking impossible shots, defying straight-line physics. His mentor, Frank Murphy, told him, "Most people see the ball and the pocket. You see everything the ball could hit between here and there." Jimmy never finished high school. At 16, he worked the docks, then as a crane operator, calculating load-bearing angles and reading blueprints. When Pearl Harbor struck, he enlisted. The Army noticed his marksmanship. Beyond accuracy, it was his unorthodox shooting positions. He'd shoot around barriers, off reflective surfaces. One sergeant noted, "Kid shoots like he's playing geometry instead of war." He became a sniper, deployed to North Africa, Sicily, then Italy. By March 1944, the war raged in the Rapido River Valley. The Germans built the Gustav Line, fortifications designed by geniuses. Concrete and positioning beat firepower. Artillery barrages useless. From a reinforced concrete bunker 480 yards across the valley, a German observer directed artillery, killing 8 Americans daily. Strong Point 7 seemed untouchable. Its firing slit faced perpendicular to any direct line. Walls were 3 feet of concrete. The observer stayed back, invisible. All Allied snipers tried. 3 died attempting suppression. Lieutenant Marcus Chen, 23, engaged, missed his shot, and was killed. Sergeant William Morrison, a 31-year-old father, tried suppressive fire. He and 2 men died in a mortar barrage. Private First Class Eddie Donovan, a Golden Gloves boxer, tried a frontal assault under smoke. Machine gun fire cut him down. Keller watched Morrison die. They'd shared stories of home, photos of Morrison's daughter, Sarah. Morrison was in a mass grave. Strong 7 remained deadly. No solution found. For 6 days, Keller studied Strong Point 7. He sketched diagrams on cigarette packs, calculating angles with a borrowed protractor. Everyone else thought in straight lines, direct fire, direct assault. Keller thought in angles, in ricochets. On March 12th, he approached Captain Raymond Hayes, requesting permission for an indirect shot. Hayes scoffed. Indirect fire was artillery's job. Keller clarified he meant indirect rifle fire through a structural gap. He explained the bunker's roof, supported by I-beams. German engineers offset the firing slit, but left structural gaps where beams met walls. A 3-inch gap, 18 inches above the firing slit. If I position at bearing 247 with a 32-foot elevation advantage, I can fire through that gap. The round deflects off the I-beam's inner angle, redirects downwards through the firing slit at approximately 40 degrees. Hayes stared. "You want to bank a rifle round off steel like a pool shot." Keller affirmed. "It's geometry, sir." Hayes warned of court-martial for wasting ammo. Keller countered, "Men die because we keep trying the same straight-line doctrine. Morrison died because we don't think in angles." Hayes finally relented. "You get 1 shot, Corporal, 1. Miss, you're back on patrol. Hit, we'll talk. Get killed, I'll write your mother explaining you died attempting the impossible." Keller understood. He spent that night calculating. A 3-inch gap at 480 yards was smaller than a quarter. Wind, temperature, air density could turn his theoretical shot into tragedy. He had to thread a needle from 5 football fields away, then bank it off steel to kill a man he couldn't even see. March 14th, 1944, 11:15 a.m. Keller moved into position in a shattered farmhouse. The air hung heavy with aviation fuel and old corpses. His hands smelled of gun oil and breakfast. Through the scope, the bunker filled his vision, the firing slit a dark rectangle. Above it, barely perceptible, the beam gap. He noticed the I-beam wasn't perfectly horizontal, a slight upward angle on the left. He adjusted his aim 6 inches right. He couldn't see the German observer. This was all theory, trigonometry from a borrowed protractor. He was betting lives. He chambered around. The metallic click echoed. He thought of Morrison's daughter, Chen's fiancée. He was Catholic, but the moral calculus felt thin. This German died, or more Americans would die. Wind died, visibility clear, every variable aligned. He exhaled slowly. At the bottom of his breath, between heartbeats, he squeezed the trigger. The M1903 kicked. The shot echoed. Through the scope, Keller watched the vapor trail disappear into the beam gap. Then silence. No sound. No impact. The bunker sat unchanged. Standard sniper doctrine advised 60 seconds of stillness. Keller watched. 20 seconds. Nothing. 30 seconds. Wind rustled. 40 seconds. A bird landed on the roof. Then, at 47 seconds, the bunker's rear door opened. A German soldier emerged, walking quickly. He entered the firing slit, reappeared moments later, waving frantically toward the rear. 3 more Germans ran. Shouts, panic. The universal choreography of soldiers discovering their observer was dead. The round had worked. Strong Point 7 was abandoned. The valley floor was free from directed artillery observation for the first time in 3 weeks. Captain Hayes found Keller 20 minutes later. "Did you take that shot?" "Yes, sir." Hayes lit a cigarette with shaking hands. "You understand this violates all sniper doctrine." "Yes, sir." "You fired at a target you couldn't see using a deflection technique not in any manual based on geometry most couldn't calculate." "Yes, sir." Hayes confirmed the German observer was dead. Single gunshot wound, downward trajectory, as Keller described. "They're calling it impossible. Intelligence thinks Germans accidentally shot their own man." Hayes flicked ash. "I'm not writing this up, Corporal. If I document this, some general will order every sniper in Italy to attempt trick shots. Good men will die." "Understood, sir." Hayes added, "If someone asks, you tell them. If another sniper wants to learn, teach them quietly, off the record. We need this capability, but it can't be official." Keller's hands still shook. Morrison, Chen, Donovan, dead. But maybe the next observer position wouldn't cost more lives. That evening, a corporal from Baker Company found Keller. "Heard you took out Strong Point 7. How'd you do it?" Keller hesitated, then told him about the I-beams, the gap, the deflection. "You're telling me you banked a rifle shot off steel. Geometry, same principle as banking a pool shot." The corporal paused. "Can you teach someone? I do math. We've been trying to crack Strong Point 12 for a week." Keller asked, "Got a protractor? Meet me after chow. Bring your rifle." By morning, 4 snipers knew the beam gap technique. By afternoon, 7. It spread through the ranks not as indirect fire, but as the gap shot, Keller's angle, or the trick. 2 days later, Sergeant Thomas Riley, after 2 hours with Keller, took out Strong Point 12. Baker Company advanced 400 yards without artillery fire. The technique spread without documentation, whispered conversations in foxholes, crude diagrams in dirt. Germans noticed. Intelligence reports from March 22 noted American snipers demonstrating unprecedented capability against fortified observation positions. They inspected abandoned bunkers, finding bullet impacts in I-beams, calculating trajectories. They realized what the Americans were doing, but beam gaps were structural necessities. German doctrine adjusted. Observers were pulled further back, reducing visibility, slowing response times. The psychological impact exceeded physical casualties. German sniper Oberlieutenant Friedrich Hartmann reported, "American round entered through structural gap I had deemed non-threatening. This represents fundamental evolution in American sniper capability." By April 1st, German artillery support was 20% slower. American casualty rates in the 36th Infantry Division dropped from 37% to 23%. Headquarters didn't understand why. An Army intelligence colonel filed a classified assessment attributing success to enhanced sniper training. Keller's name, absent. By May 1944, the technique reached the British Eighth Army, then spread to France after D-Day. It existed in the gaps of official doctrine, passed soldier to soldier. Conservative estimates credit beam gap techniques with neutralizing 127 fortified positions, saving 381 lives. Lives saved, families spared telegrams.
In June 1944, an anonymous technical paper on structural deflection in counter-fortification sniper operations reached the Army War College. It detailed Keller's geometry, recommending integration into doctrine. It sat for 7 months. In January 1945, the Army authorized training, calling it Advanced Structural Analysis. It taught Keller's pool hall geometry, making no mention of its origin. Keller received no commendation, promotion, recognition. He didn't care. The 381 lives saved had names, families, futures. That was sufficient. James Keller survived the war. He returned to Charlestown in November 1945. The dock jobs were gone. He found work as a crane operator at the Navy Yard, calculating load weights, stress angles, positioning rigging points with precision. He married Catherine O'Brien, a nurse. They had 3 children. He taught them pool, explaining that straight lines were just one option. He never mentioned why he understood deflection better than most. He died in 1998, aged 77. His obituary was 140 words, mentioning Navy Yard service, family, Red Sox. One sentence read, "James served with distinction in World War II." Nothing about Strong Point 7. Nothing about 381 lives saved. His technique became standard doctrine. Modern sniper training includes structural deflection shooting. The curriculum acknowledges a World War II origin, but no specific individual. In 2003, Dr. Patricia Williamson, a military historian, discovered references to gap shooting in German intelligence reports. She traced the technique to a single successful shot against Strong Point 7, to Corporal James Keller. Her 14-page article appeared in the Journal of Military History. No one in his family saw it. This is how innovation truly happens in war. Not through official channels or committees, but through exhausted corporals who watched friends die, who couldn't follow orders that didn't work, who risked court-martial to attempt the impossible. Through men who understand rules are written by those not there, and doctrine by officers who don't pull triggers. Sometimes the difference between death and survival is 3 inches of shadow and the courage to take the impossible shot. Keller never called himself a hero. He'd done what needed doing. Morrison's daughter never fished with her father, but other daughters did. That was sufficient. His grave in Woodlawn Cemetery has a standard military headstone. Nothing about the innovation or lives saved, just gray marble and grass.